Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to show how to integrate AWS SQS Lambda and DynamoDB table. Over this video I'm using AWS console, but in the forthcoming video I'm supposed to do the same integration using CloudFormation template. The scenario I'm going to tackle today, let's think about we manually create message in SQS which automatically trigger the Lambda. What Lambda does, it's extract the data, the property, whatever the parameters we are interested, and then these properties get populated into DynamoDB table. That's the scenario I'm gonna do today, step by step, of course. And as usual, if you like my content, please like and subscribe. And of course, if you do have any issue, any concern, any questions, please comment below. I'll try my best to answer. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. Let's start. Furthermore, all the source code, for example, the Lambda code and the roles we are using for execute Lambda will be available in the GitHub. So I'll put the link below, so you can refer this link and get the actual source code. First of all, as per our integration, what we're gonna do, we create a SQS queue first, then we will create a Lambda, and then we will see how the integration work, and then once it is success, then we can start working on the DynamoDB table. So that's the plan today, right? Let's go to the AWS console. One of the prerequisites is you should have a AWS account. If you don't have any account of AWS account, you can go to this link, AWS free tier. Just search AWS free tier account, so you will end up with this page, and you can create a free account. So it will ask a credit card information, but you won't get charged unless you using the actual resource. With the free tier, you get a bunch of services free. You can have a look, and whatever the tutorial we're gonna do today, it's everything is under free tier. You don't get cost. Right, let's go to the console page. Then we will search SQS and click on the simple queue service. Once I click on that, it goes to the dashboard. In my case, I already do have a queue. In our case, let's create a new queue. Once you come to this screen, it's asking whether you want to create a standard or the FIFO queue. In ours, this example, I'm gonna create a standard queue, but you can create a still a FIFO queue. There's a video about difference between standard queue and FIFO queue in my channel, so I'll put the link so you can have a refer. In this case, we will start creating a standard queue. Let's say demo queue 1. We will give it a name, go back and visibility timeout, and keep it as a standard. Everything is standard, you don't need to do any changes, and click on create. Once I create, click the create button, it will end up with creating the new queue, and it's ready to go. Like you can see, it's standard. If I go into particular queue, if I click on that, you can see all the information is there. So once you click on more, it has all the configuration like visibility timeout, retention period, and so on. That's all you have to do to create a queue. Now let's go to create a Lambda. Search on Lambda. I'm creating opening in the new tab. Right. I do have a copy of the sample Lambda, but I'm gonna create a new one. Give it a name, demo function. Sorry, give me a sec. Demo function 1. Copy, and I'm using the runtime as a Node.js. This is a Node.js application, Node.js language I'm gonna use for the creating Lambda. And This is interesting things, creating the execution role. So what's going to happen when you create the Lambda, it needs some permission to access other AWS resources. In this case, it should have permission to access SQS queue, the one that we created. So most of the people get issue with they do the integration with SQS and Lambda, and but they don't have a permission to access the queue. So I'll go with the default one, and we will try to access, and we will get error, then we will fix the role issue. That's because this is something most people get stuck. I'm creating a new role with the basic Lambda permission, and I don't need to use any advanced settings. I'm click create function. This will end up with creating a Node.js Lambda function with the default role attached. Let's see. As you can see, the Lambda function got created with the bare minimum code. You can see it's come with a few tabs: code, test, monitor. The test is basically you can create some test, and you can do the on the fly, you can do the testing this function. Monitor is basically you can see the metrics, how the demo function, the our function is work, how many invocation happen, error sort of thing. And the configuration is basically actually the configuration of the demo, this function, the trigger Lambda. And as you can say, you can add the triggers and the permission where you had a role, the one that we asked to create a default role, and so on. I'm not going through the each one in this tutorial. If you want to get more insight, more tutorial in the YouTube with the what is Lambda, and it's going through the each tab and each configuration. Right, in our case, let's say the execution role, we will have a quick look on the execution role which attached to this Lambda. If I go to this is the role, and if you can see, what does it say? It has a permission to create this is a permission they have, is permission to create logs and create some log stream for this function. Basically it does only have some logs to in the CloudWatch. The CloudWatch, if you don't know, the CloudWatch is basically where you can see all the execution logs for this Lambda. It's not only for the Lambda, so there are many services using the CloudWatch. Let's see, now we will do the trigger. What we can do in this case, we need to integrate our Lambda with SQS. Right, you can go both ways. You can have the integration. So either you go to add trigger over here, and in the Lambda side you can select the SQS and select the SQS as a service, and you can pick the SQS which we want to integrate. That's a one way. The other way is if you go to the SQS itself. This is SQS, the one that we created, and if you go to the second tab, which is Lambda trigger, you can configure Lambda over here too. Right, you can go here and you can pick the Lambda in our Lambda. It's both it's working. Right, so let's go to the way I am going to do in the Lambda page. So I'm going to Lambda, and either you can go this tab or the button on the top. So I'm clicking on this add trigger and select the SQS service and pick the queue what we asking. So in this case we are after integrate with the demo queue. I picked a queue, and this is how many messages you want to retry per given time, for one time. So default, keep it as a default, that's fine. And additional settings, you don't need to worry about additional settings, and you just click on add. What does it do? This will as you can see, if you click on that, it's come up with the error. It says error occur when creating the trigger. Provide execution role does not have permission to call to receive SQS. This is the issue I mentioned, most people say having. The role we attach to the Lambda does not have permission to access SQS. So let's go to a role and we will give a permission to access SQS. I'm go back to the particular role. It's in an IAM. You can access this role in a two-way. This way, this is already open, or otherwise if you type IAM and go tab, new tab, I'm opening new tab, go to roles and you can search this role. This is the way you can find this role. Click on that role, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a permission for this role which can access SQS. So I'm click on the right tab, add permission, attach policy. I'm going to attach a policy which has a permission. So what we can do, I can search SQS. In this case, actually we need only read permission, basically receive the permission, but for just the sake of simplicity, I'm give a full permission to this role, full permission to SQS. That's where you can do anything on the SQS. You can delete the queue, you can add it, you can update anything. Right, then I'm attaching this policy to here. Right, so then if I go back to my Lambda, let's give a shot again. Let's try to add. Okay, cool, it's added, because now the role, the role, this is permission, this role has a permission to access SQS. Right, seems like now it's everything should be okay. It's integrated with the queue. Now let's go to our code and we will see what's in there. This is a bare minimum, comes with the minimum code come with the Node.js. What we can do, let's try to console dot log the event first, and right, let's see what the event it's coming, and we will log. And what is it? The actual existing code does, it doesn't do anything. It's basically say it's creating some JSON payload with the status cost 200 and some with the body just empty, just a simple string which go back to the caller, whoever called this Lambda. Right, so what we gonna do, we update whenever you update the code you want to deploy. You can see the changes are not deployed. You want to deploy, otherwise the changes won't be effect. I deploy these code changes. Right, and what we can do, the first thing we can do, Lambda itself, we can do a bit of testing. How do you do testing? You can click on this test, or you can go to this the tab in the second tab. I'm going to click this. It's come up with a screen where you can define. This is basically, you think about like some testing data. I'm call as this is a test event 1, and I'm thinking I'm sending this payload to Lambda test 1 and test 2, and you can do format, of course, and you can save it. Once you save it, you can click on this little arrow and you can see the one that we create, the event created, it's selected. So whenever we click on the test, it's trigger that event and call this Lambda. Let's click on the Lambda. What does happen? Okay, cool. As you can see, this is a response. Whenever you call this Lambda, this is a response, right? It's basically, it's coming with 200 and some string. As you can see, its response is coming, and plus this is the actual logs. You can see it. It says, oh, Lambda started, and then it's coming with the, okay, this is the event, the one that we log in the console. All the event get logged in here. Basically the line number 3. Right, seems like Lambda is working. Now let's go to the monitor. So I want to see whether this is in CloudWatch. Once you come to here, You can't see any data so far. Let's give a shot. And what we can do, we can go to SQS now. The first thing, okay, let's see the logs. You can click on this view log in a new tab, and just wait until is there any logs for this one. Yes, you can see there are some logs. If you click on the logs, you can see the same logs what we saw in earlier in the same format. You can see the event and it says how much memory it took, how much seconds it took. Right, seems like it's working. Now let's go to our SQS and let's try to send some message manually. How do you send a message manually? You can click on this send and receive message in the right corner. I'm in the demo queue. I'm click on the right corner and you can give it a name. So the message body, test message demo 1, and you don't need to tell anything. It's just click on send. Once you click send, it says it's push, and what we gonna see, we should see some invocation or trigger this lambda. How do we know this lambda is trigger? Let's go to here and give it a refresh on our CloudWatch logs, because that's where we can see the actual logs. And if I click on open this, all right, okay, what we can see, this is the first event. It's end up here, the test event we did. This is the second, the message we see. If we click on the second line over here, you can see the message got delivered to lambda successfully, and this is the event we are logging. You can see it's come with the object. The object have a property called records. Record is an array. Within the array, there are could be multiple messages. In our case, it's just a one message. This record could be, if you have a multiple message, it's come with the up to 10. In this case, it could be up to 10 based on the configuration. And you can see the message ID, some receipt handler, and this is the one that we are interested in here. The body, whatever the message we push here, test message body, you can see over here, test the message body demo 1, right? So seems like it's working, right? Basically, as far as you can send some message to SQS, it's end up with it's trigger automatically the trigger, the lambda, and lambda does whatever it's in the code. Currently it doesn't have a much thing in here code, but we're gonna do integrate with the Dynamo table. We extract some data from the payload, from the SQS message, and we will populate the Dynamo table. So let's go to the next one. Is let's create a Dynamo table, and we will push some data to a Dynamo table. How do we create a Dynamo table? Let's click on this service again, type DynomoDB table. It's come with the multiple matching results. So I'm clicking Dynamo table in new tab. So once I create comes to this dashboard, you can see I can click on the you can create a table over here. What I'm going to create a new table. So let's give it a name. It's a demo table 1. Copy the name table, and let's think about what we gonna populate. So we need to decide, okay, what the message we are pushing to SQS, right? Think about, we are sending the message something like copy this. Let's say in the message, what we are going to do, give me a sec. Let's say we are sending some JSON data. Let's say we are sending some user ID and the name and the age. Okay, so in this case, what we're gonna try, we get this user ID, name, and allow code the age, extract this data in the Lambda code, and Lambda will push this data into Dynamo table. So therefore I'm assuming we do have a populate private partition key is a user ID, and the rest of the column will be automatically generated. So keep it as a default, all the stuff, and click on create table. Let's say, right, okay, it's get created. It's take like a few seconds to create in a table, and yes, it's active. Now we got the table. If we go to click on the table, and that's done. Now what we're gonna do, we go back to our demo function, and let's try let's start typing some code, right? Here what we're gonna do, I'll copy the code, and let's go hopefully this is good enough. I'll copy the code, then we can go through the right. So what I'm going to do, I'm paste the code, and what is this trying to do? I'll go one by one. So basically in the Node.js, they require the Node AWS come with some SDK. What I'm going to do, I'm getting the AWS SDK reference, and because we are calling our Dynamo table, we need to get the DynomoDB table, the client. So this is Dynamo. Please make sure this region is matching with the same region. You create a DynomoDB table. In my case, I'm in North Virginia, so I use US East 1, and the API version is, this is something you need to do, but make sure your region is get changed as you need it. And as the second one is of course we need to give a handler. So think about, this is a message, this is a message, event is same as a message coming from SQS, and we log. And then what we need to do, we need to get the record destructor in the event, because event has a record column. If I go back to here in my cloud formation last record, you can see the actual payload has a record. Within the record is an array, and within the array we do have a body. So we need to get this body same way we need to extract this body. That's what we are doing, right? We get the records object, and then we pass that body object into JSON, because we are passing the JSON. Once you get the body, what we're gonna do here, we are just logging here to make sure we can troubleshoot something. In real world you should not log everything, but this is for the demo purpose. We are doing logging everything, so it makes too easy for troubleshooting if something goes wrong. The body, we get the body. So basically body has then we need to create the parameter. So what we're gonna do, we create the object called param, and we give it a name. This table, these are the keyword. You need to give a table name and the item. In the table name is, in our case, what we're gonna do, it's my table name. If I go back, demo table name, copy, come back, save it, and the item. So as you can see, I'm creating a user ID, because Dynamo table has a partition keys user ID you need to provide, and the name and age. These are the other two field I'm getting from the body. So you can see this body, I'm referring user ID and the name and age. And finally, it's very easy. What you need to do, you need to use DynomoDB instance what we created in here. This is a client, and need to set put. This is what it's gonna do. It's creating a new record with this param, and it's promised. We are just waiting. That's all. So if we pass everything is perfectly, we should get the data in the DynomoDB table. But definitely just get error. I'll let it to get the error, then we will fix that error. What to do, we will deploy this new code change. right, it's successfully updated. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going back to my Amazon the queue, and this time I'm sending this payload to populate a new message. Use ID 123 name, and let's see what's gonna happen. I send a message, it's successfully sent, and I'm back to CloudWatch. I give it a refresh. Go to the function again. Let's see. I believe this is the new one. Yes, this is the new logs. As you can see, yes, we got the new object. That's fine. And it's income message, it's logging, everything is yes. Income message body is this one. Yes, that's perfect. And as you can see, we got an error. It says error in executing Lambda and access denied exception. So if you read this message carefully, you can see the particular user, in this case our role, the one that attached to our function, is not authorized to perform DynamoDB put item. That's obvious, right? Basically, we haven't had any permission in a Lambda role to access DynamoDB table, because AWS is pretty much everything is you need to allow the permission. Everything by default, everything is denied. You need to allow each permission one by one. Right. Right. So what we're gonna do, as I mentioned, this is access denied issue. What we're gonna do, we try to add a new permission to particular role. Go back to our role again. I'll give a refresh. This is our role which attached to Lambda. What we can do, we need to go and add a policy new. I'm going to add new policy. If I type Dynamo and enter, as you can see, it's come with the Dynamo. Yes, DynamoDB full access. And in this case, you need to only the put access. But as I mentioned, like you can fine tune in AWS. You can fine tune your permission to least privilege, because by the best practice is you should not give a full permission. You always give a least permission, but in this case I'm give a full permission and attach policy. Right, let's go to, if I go to the particular role again, you can see we do have, this is a Lambda, the permission which created very initially, then we added SQS, then now we added the DynamoDB. As you mentioned again, I'm repeating again, don't give a full access. So you should give a minimum access to a particular role. All right, then let's go to SQS again. If I change back to, let's say this is 4, and let's say this is changing to 30, I'm getting old. Right? So if I push back again, let's say send a message, seems like message delivered. And if I go back to my demo function logs, I can see, I give it a refresh. Right, so okay, so all the logs, sometimes it goes to the one single log file, or sometimes it's creating a different file. As you can see, this is the last event. Right, it's event incoming message and successful written to DB. So seems like it's successfully written database. Let's go to our table and give it a refresh. This is table. If you want to see the actual data, you want to explore item, click on the left side in the explore item and click on the table. All right, okay, so in this case, yes, say we send the user ID, it's get populated. And like if you click on that, yes, user ID get populated, age, and with the name. So seems like it's work, right? First time, yes, it failed because of the permission. I want to purposely make it fail, because most of the people get issue with the permission, AWS permission, role permission, policies sort of thing. Right, that's all about this video. And anything else? Okay, that's all of the, as I mentioned, this code, this code will be available in the GitHub, and I'll put the link and you can refer easily. You don't need to go, maybe you don't need to go whole the tutorial. You can go whichever you are interesting, which part, whatever the part you are interesting. Right. Yeah, that's all about this tutorial. I'm more likely I'm going to do the integration with the Lambda, with the same SQS and Lambda. In this case we are pushing the DynamoDB table, but in the next tutorial I'm going to do send in email, let's say Lambda called SES, which is AWS email service, and which can be we can send some data to a particular whatever the nominated email addresses. So that's the next video more likely. And yeah, that's all about this, and stay tuned. And again, if you like my content, please like and subscribe. Thank you.